Marchek. I'm a BIM specialist here based out of the Philadelphia office. Today, we're going to talk about how we can use the tools in the Autodesk Construction Cloud to collaborate better in the pre-construction and construction phases of a project. We've got a lot of ground to cover. We'll just be scratching the surface, but please feel free to ask any questions you might have throughout the presentation in the chat, and we will try to address as many as we can at the end, time permitting. So here is a list of what we're going to cover today. I know Jim covered this a little bit already, but what I want to do is give you a general overview of the products in the ACC, which is the abbreviation for the Autodesk Construction Cloud. I'll briefly review how licensing works with these products, as it's been known to cause a little bit of confusion, so I always like to try and clarify that a little bit for everybody. Then I'll go into a live demo of the key tools and features of Autodesk Docs, Autodesk Takeoff, and Autodesk Build, including how we can create and track some of those standard administrative workflows. And then I'll also touch on the PlanGrid mobile app to show you how we can utilize those same tools in the field so that the transfer of information is seamless between the office and the field. All of this ultimately, and hopefully, will show you how we can start to collaborate better using the tools that are provided by the Autodesk Construction Cloud. Okay, so the Autodesk Construction Cloud, or ACC, as I mentioned, encompasses two different cloud-based platforms. The platform that some of you may be familiar with has been around for several years, which is BIM 360, but also now the new unified platform, which was rolled out in February of this year. These platforms allow project teams to work in a collaborative environment from anywhere and at any time. Using this cloud technology, we can access our project information all through an internet browser or mobile app on a smart device. This is probably the most valuable asset that the ACC provides, a connectivity that gives everyone on a project team real-time access to all the information in a project, and again, from any time and from anywhere. So the unified platform was developed in order to integrate the tools from BIM 360 with the tools in the mobile app from the PlanGrid product. And that was a product that was acquired by Autodesk a couple of years ago. Many of you in the construction industry are likely familiar with that already. This integration of these tools allows users to work in sync both in the office and in the field, and from the design phase of a project through to construction. Sometimes even handover after construction has been completed. This is all because project information and deliverables are all housed on one platform. Ultimately, Autodesk's goal was to take the features and the capabilities that many of you may have spread out across multiple applications and bring a good bit of these workflows, if not all, onto the unified platform. Autodesk calls this being the single source of truth. At the end of the day, the unified platform and BIM 360 are parallel platforms. No one should feel forced to use one or the other. So whichever you are most comfortable with, that's what we recommend using. If you have current projects in BIM 360, or if you've been invited to projects in BIM 360 as well, we recommend just staying in the BIM 360 platform. If you're just starting out in general, or if you're starting new projects and are comfortable with new platforms and new technology, we might recommend putting your new projects on the unified platform. Just to make sure that we're all on the same page, I want to make a note that I'll be using the newer unified platform as the focus of this webinar, specifically in the live demo portion of it. Okay, so let's talk licensing quickly before hopping into more detail on the products themselves. With the older BIM 360 platform, it was a mix of bring your own and hub assigned licenses, meaning that some products would be assigned as a product in your contract manager's Autodesk account, just like an AEC collection for Revit and AutoCAD, for example. And other products are assigned by your BIM 360 hub administrator on your BIM 360 site. This looks similar to the image that you see in the upper left of this slide here. This process of kind of having a mixed licensing has caused a little confusion over the years, especially first-time users, because there's a couple different ways to assign access, all depending on which product that we're talking about. If you're being invited to use projects on a BIM 360 site that's not your own, sometimes you bring your own license, and sometimes the company inviting you has to assign the license through their hub. Now, with the new unified platform, all licenses of the products that we'll be discussing are just bring your own, meaning that all products are assigned by your Autodesk account contract manager in one place, just like a seat of an AEC collection, similar to what you see on the bottom right of this slide. So, and meaning once you have a seat assigned, you can then use that seat on your own cloud site or any site that you've been invited to. The Autodesk Cloud products are separate, individually purchased products. Each product has its own set of tools depending on your discipline and the workflows that you're looking to facilitate in the cloud. One thing that I want to point out, a license of any product will give you access to both projects on the newer unified platform as well as the older BIM 360 platform. Okay, so now what I'd like to do is show you a slide that highlights the 5 main products in the Autodesk Construction Cloud. Then we'll walk through Docs, Build, and Takeoff in more detail in the browser itself. All right, so there are additional products I meant to say, sorry, under the Autodesk Construction Cloud umbrella, but I don't want to muddy the waters today. So I'm just going to show you the 5 main products that we have here. As Jim mentioned, I had covered BIM Collaborate and BIM Collaborate Pro in the first part of this webinar series 2 weeks ago. So we won't be diving into those today. Now, of course, there is going to be overlap between these products and the phases of design and construction, as we all know. So for example, anyone in pre-construction who is responsible for, say, model coordination and or clash detection would use the BIM Collaborate product, as that is its main capability. But today we're going to be focusing on Docs, Takeoff, and Build. I won't read through this whole slide, of course, but just to highlight some of these products, BIM Collaborate, as I just mentioned, is a tool used for model coordination, much like a Navisworks, where we can compare 2 models against each other to see where we might have clashes or other coordination issues. BIM Collaborate Pro provides access to the same tools in BIM Collaborate, but it also is a tool that provides the ability to work share in the cloud. In other words, what allows Revit users to sync with Central, work on the same Revit model at the same time, so on and so forth. Now, the next 3 are what we're here to talk about and go into a deeper dive on today. So Takeoff is new as of the rollout of the new unified platform earlier this year. It's used for quantification and both 2D and 3D takeoffs, where we can take our Revit models or PDFs, break them down into manageable parts or groups in order to create detailed quantity takeoffs that can then be exported into other cost estimating software that you may already be using. Build is used for project management, cost management, quality and safety control, and sometimes even project handoff, as I mentioned. So we have tools for things like RFI and submittal management, various checklists and templates for tasks in the field like daily logs or safety inspections and checklists. It has tools for budgeting and cost control through items like contracts and change orders, though we won't be covering that today here. And one of the big additions is the use of the PlanGrid mobile app, which some of you may be familiar with to some extent if you've used PlanGrid previously. And then last but not least, and what we'll actually be covering first in the live demo is Docs, which, as I mentioned, is the foundation of these cloud platforms. And this is why it's shown encompassing all the other products on this slide at the bottom here. It's the document management product which houses all of the information used by the other products in the Autodesk Construction Cloud. We also will also discuss some of the other tools listed under Docs here, namely the admin controls and the Insight tool. I want to touch on them because they provide a dashboard to track and review the data that's housed in our projects through the Insight tool. So I just want to mention that here whenever we have a moment. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these tools and workflows at a higher level overview here. Keep in mind that, as I mentioned, there's a lot of ground to cover. We'll only be scratching the surface of these products, but hopefully it will be enough to give you a good idea of the capabilities and how they might help you collaborate better with your teams, again, both in the office and in the field. And as I mentioned, I'll be reviewing these tools using the newer unified platform here. So let me stop my share and switch to my browser. Click on share and let me bring up my browser. Jim, would you mind hopping in and just let me know that you can see my browser?
Absolutely, I can see it.
Okay, excellent.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay. So here's the user interface for the new unified platform in a browser window, and I'm showing the Docs module here. So to toggle through various products, I would just click over here, click on this drop down in the upper left-hand corner, and here are the access to the various products, some of which we'll be talking about today, some of which I already talked about, and some of which we won't be talking about. I won't go through Docs in as much detail as I had in the previous webinar, as a number of those tools are more relevant to the design phases of a project. But I will still touch on a couple tools that I think are relevant to our focus today. So first off, we have the Files tab. As I mentioned a couple times now, Docs is where you house all of your project files and where all that information is stored. Think of it as a file repository in the cloud, but with additional functionality. We can customize this folder so that you can meet the needs of your office. I'm just showing something basic for demo purposes. And then you can also, once you create a file structure, you can set up a template to carry a file structure, that file structure over from one project to the next. For document control, we use what are called permissions to control what level of access users have, whether it is by user, by role that can be assigned, or even by a company that a user can be assigned to being a part of. These permissions are folder-based, so we can control at a granular level who has access to what information in our project. So if I simply click on, just to give you an idea, if I click on the three little dot ellipse over here, it'll bring out a flyout. Let me move, this isn't my way. Okay. Hopefully it'll bring out, oops. So let me just click here and bring out permissions. So for example, maybe you want to invite a subcontractor to your project and you only want them to see some cut sheets and some drawings or whatever the case may be, but not more private financial documentation that you may have stored in Docs. You can set up any number of folders that you want to see when you log in, but you can set permissions such that when your subs log in, they only see the folders for the information that you want them to see. And all of this can be controlled either from the admin settings or from this window over here when I click on that permissions tool. Okay, so another thing I want to show you is the project or the viewer, the model or the file viewer in here. So if I go to my architecture folder here, the viewer lets us, oh, wonderful. 1 second, more technical difficulties. Let me just refresh this page. There we go. Okay. So the viewer lets us see files, models, documents, whatever the case may be, all from our browser. I'm showing you a Revit model here, but it could easily be any file that's housed in Docs, whether it's a Word document, PDF, so on and so forth. This is useful for those people who on a team may not be in the trenches doing production work and using the applications, creating the files and the documents, but still need the access to review progress on a project. They can simply open up the project in a browser window and start reviewing the information that's housed in Docs. Depending on the view, I have various navigation tools that you see here at the bottom. And if I switch my Revit model to a sheet view, real quick here, you'll also see, you also see I have additional markup tools over here on the right. Like Bluebeam, for example, I can make markups and notes. I can set these to either public or private, so they can either, something that only I can see or something that the whole team can see. I can create issues over here, which I'll be covering more in a minute or two. I can create photo references directly on my documents through this tool, or I can create dimension strings of taking measurements from my documents. There's certainly more tools. I'm just trying to highlight a couple here for you at this point. So if I back out of here, the reviews and submittals tabs are more for designers and passing information along internally or externally with consultants. Just know that we can create less formal reviews and transmittal of information through these tools, allowing our users to follow those workflows using the information that's already housed in the project. Anytime a review or transmittal is created, the user will get an email notification and they can check on a link taking them to the document to be reviewed. The Issues tab, as promised, allows us to manage all of the issues created in a project, quote unquote issues, whether it is on a document as we just saw, or if it is on another document somewhere else in the project. Or it can actually be created directly in this tool by clicking on this create issue here. Issues are meant to, and I'll do this just so I can show you what the window looks like. Issues are meant to identify and communicate areas of concern or improvement. We can do this by dropping pins onto our drawings, our models, or our documents, or like I just did here, simply clicking on Create Issue in the Issues tab itself. Or then what we can do is we can enter all types of information like date created, due date, location, type, descriptions of the issue. We can even attach references, whether they're sheets or photos or other documentation. All of that can be tied to the issue so that once it's accessed by the user, all relevant information is at their fingertips. And once we've created the issue, the user assigned will then receive an email notification with a link where they can then access the issue and then make any comments within the issue itself, or possibly address in Revit, in the Revit model or the AutoCAD file if their design changes. And then they can either respond to the issue or close it out at that point. Jump out of here. Again, issues can be managed and created both from this tool in Docs, from the documents, modules, or files directly by dropping a pin into place, or from the build module that we'll be getting into here later. Whether it's whether through a browser like we're using now, or even through the mobile app in the field. The idea is that we have a full audit trail showing every issue in a project, no matter where it was created, and we can see dates, who is working, or who has worked on it, etc. Okay. The reports, members, and settings are all universal tools that you'll find in multiple projects, and they're pretty straightforward, as you might assume from the names of each. So reports allow us to generate reports based on the information that's housed in Docs. So if I click on that tab here, you can see, hopefully quickly it'll populate. I can create a report based on either issue detail, issue summary that we had, and as well as, pretty much just issues. So the issues tool that we talked about here. In build, we'll see that there's other reports available. It's pulling that information from whatever has been created and housed in Docs. Members is where we would control who we've invited to our projects and what permissions we're giving them. And then the settings control some of the finer settings of the project itself. There's a bit more detail than we want to get to, and with this kind of this high level overview that we have here today. Okay, so not in the Docs product specifically, but still part of the collaborative workflow are two other tools from our dropdown that I mentioned in the PowerPoint slides, Admin and Project Insights. So with Admin, we have two different options down here. We have Project Admin and Account Admin. The admin functions are exactly what you would assume, project management, site management, user management, as well as folder permissions to control visibility into what you're housing on your site. With account admin being the one that focuses on the entire site, and project admin providing admin controls on a project by project basis. The Insight tool is a dashboard that you can customize and track the information housed in the Autodesk Construction Cloud. So hopefully this will populate here very quickly. What you can do is you can see and track any issues or delays and what might be causing them, since we have a full audit trail of who is working on what is assigned to who, and so on and so forth. Through the use of the card library, each one of these is a card here. Through the use of the card library, we can create a detailed landing page that gives us information on all sorts of data for your project, where you can control the cards that you want to see. So here you can see I show the weather conditions on the site, as well as cards for project issues, open RFIs and submittals, design packages, and so on and so forth. I can customize what cards I want visible in the upper right hand corner over here. So if I clicked on customize, it would bring up the flyout here, where I can then add, delete, modify whatever cards I might want to use. You can see here that it actually ties into other non-Autodesk software as well. So if I wanted to pull information in from there, I can do that with these integration tools that we have here with these cards. Overall, the idea is to allow you to see and track any issues or delays and what might be causing them, giving teams the ability to review and analyze some of this data that's housed in the cloud to help evaluate our project timelines, outstanding items of concern, or even root causes of some of those issues. All right, so now let's take a look at the build product here. So click on my drop down, I'll click on build. So The Home tab is basically a dashboard to help start your day. It isn't a customizable or as detailed as the Insight dashboard that we just looked at, but it gives you a snapshot of some of the more important information as it relates to status of activities in your projects and the like. So we have things like project progress here, which shows us the project milestones. We also have quick links to sheets and members. And then we have a panel for the site weather. It shows recent activity over here on the right. So you can see some of the stuff that has been going on with the demo project over here. We also see the work status down below, which shows any issues that are assigned to me, as well as other pending tasks. We can see how many and which users in the field are actually fully synced with the most recent project information. I believe right now I'm the only one synced, and I know for a fact that I have not synced recently, so that's why it says 0% at this point. So you can, as a project manager at a glance, you can see who's using the most recent information in the field on the mobile app and who isn't. Okay, so let's walk through some of these tools in Build. So Sheets are the new addition above what we had access to in the BIM 360 platform. And Sheets come as a direct result of the integration with PlanGrid. So you PlanGrid users out there are probably already familiar with the idea of Sheets. For newcomers, Sheets are a very popular tool within PlanGrid for field use. In BIM 360, our contract documents are typically saved as PDFs in the document management portal. But now with the integration of PlanGrid in the newer unified platform, once construction starts, the workflow is to turn those PDFs that we may have had saved before in BIM 360 and Docs, is to turn those into more interactive quote unquote sheets for use in the office and the field. Once we move our documents over to Sheets, all of our markups, our issues, etc., all of that should be published within Sheets so that everyone has access to the most recent documents both in the office and the field. So that goes back to my home screen where I was showing you the update on the sync. I can clearly see here that I do not have all of the most recent markups, issues, whatever the case may be, on my tablet. I have to sync my tablet in order to make sure that I'm using that information. So there's notifications in the mobile app. There's notifications here as well, so that we can monitor and track who is using the most recent information. The PlanGrid mobile app itself has access to Sheets as well. It makes for easy use in the field, which is why once we move our documents to Sheets, all of the work is generated from them rather than PDFs like we had done before. I will show, time permitting, the PlanGrid mobile app here at the end of this build discussion so that you can get a feel for the differences in in terms of what it looks like versus what we're seeing in the browser. When we extract our information to Sheets, so let's say, for example, we're extracting our PDFs to Sheets, the tools in the cloud will automatically pull the sheet number, the drawing name, and discipline information for easy management of the sheets and navigation in the field or in the office, of course. This extraction process will also automatically create hyperlinks in your file so that you can very easily jump back and forth through your sheets, making navigation a pretty easy process between your drawings. Like the tools that some of the tools that we've already talked about, we have a full audit trail by clicking on, if I click on the ellipse over here, let me just pick the A101 sheet, for example. If I click on view sheet activities, it'll bring out a flyout where I can expand these windows a little bit, and I can see a full audit trail of who has worked on what sheets, who has made any changes, when, and so on and so forth. So again, there's a full audit trail. There's that single source of truth that Autodesk, as I mentioned, Autodesk refers to as having all of that information all available at a couple clicks of a button, all in one platform. If I were to click on one of these sheets, for example, you're going to see that we also have those same markup tools that we just saw in Docs, as well as the issues tool over here. So if I clicked on one of these, I could place that pin that I talked about. So I could place a pin, and it's going to bring up that window that I had mentioned a few minutes ago about where we can enter all the information for the issue. Specifically here, I can then assign it to somebody, and then they'll get the email notification. I'll have a pin on my sheet, and then I'll also have reference to that issue that we just created here in the Issues tab here as well. So here, I'll just show you, here is that pin that has no information in it, but there's the issue that I just created on that sheet that I was just showing you. And again, we have the markup tools as well as the camera tools that I had discussed previously. The Files tab is simply a quick access point to the same files and folders that are visible in Docs that we saw earlier. So basically just making things a little easier so that we don't have to kind of toggle between various projects from this drop down here, whether we're working in the browser or if we're in the field. So Files just shows me the exact same window that we just looked at. Then we have the Issues tab here. We've already covered that fairly well when discussing Docs. I just wanted to reiterate that what we see, that we will see the exact same window when clicking on the Issues tool in Build as what we do in Docs. So again, no matter where the issue has been created, whether it's in Sheets, in PDFs, whether it's in Docs, whether it's in Build, we can easily access all of the issues in the project from using multiple products all in one location. And I can use the filter tool over here if I needed to. Let's say we have 500 issues toward the end of a project. I can use this filter tool and say, I only want to see, for example, anything that's been listed as a commissioning issue. And see, I only have one commissioning issue in this project. So I can start to drill down on what I see in that list of issues if it gets a little unwieldy. The Forms tab gives us access to create various forms and templates that can be used in the field for things like daily logs, site safety checklists, various other checklists, and so on. The forms themselves are fully customizable. You can either build your forms and checklists from scratch, or you can import smart PDFs as a starting point for your templates. We can even connect these forms with issues in RFI. So let's say you're filling out a form, and a form that's you're in the field, you're filling out a form. You can generate issues and RFIs directly from that form, from that report that you're filling out in the field, so that there's a direct tie-in to all of that information. Again, keeping that kind of that one source of truth idea, having all that information all in one location. We can generate those types of things directly from our reports as well. And then we can obviously, the idea would be to immediately be able to escalate that issue directly from a form if necessary. Once your templates have been created, so if I click on this tab, you'll see here are the templates that we have built into our demo project. Once those have been created, if you're in the field, you can simply click on Create Form, and then I can pick from any one of those templates. So let me just click on the sample daily report here. And then you can start to enter the information and enter the details, the particulars into this form. And then once you submit, you'll have a running list of all the forms that have been completed, along with the dates, IDs, numbers, status, who created it, when it was last updated, and on and on and on. So if I just take a step back here to forms, here is a list of any of the forms. Once it populates, it will be a list of any of the forms that we've generated either through the browser or through that I've done through the PlanGrid mobile app as testing. So here we'll see that full list. We'll see the status, ID number, when it was created, who was created by, when it was last updated. So you can use that, like I said, for any number of things like daily logs, safety checklists. I think we had a COVID checklist template in there as well. So anything that meets your office needs, you can create as a form to be used in the field for forms. Photos provides a tool dedicated to photos, as you probably guessed. We've had access in BIM 360 to taking photos through the BIM 360 app in the field, or taking them with a camera and then uploading them into BIM 360 Docs. What we can do now is take photos in the field, and they will automatically get uploaded under this tool so that we have one repository for all photos. Or we can actually upload photos directly into this folder as well if we would needed to. One really useful addition to the Autodesk Construction Cloud with this tool is that we can see the gallery view as we see here, or we can select the map view, and you can see where the photos were actually taken exactly on the job site with heat markers here. Hopefully, if it wants to populate and not make a liar out of me, let me try and refresh here. if this loads, you'll see that I think this is, having taken plenty of site photos in my time and then have to get back to the office and try and label them based on where I thought they were. This is a pretty useful tool, which evidently I'm not going to be able to show you. There we go. Okay. So here it's just listing one particular photo, but you would see a number of locations of heat, basically location markers for each one of these photos that we see here in the gallery. It's not populating for me correctly, so my apologies for that. But in any event, the idea is that all of these photos would then be located on this map view. And we can send some more information on that since it's not working, if anybody's interested in that further. All right, what I'm going to do now is just hop into RFIs and submittals. I'm going to lump them in together as they're kind of relatively similar from a functionality standpoint. For RFIs, we can create and manage them both in the field and the office, as you might imagine. Most of what we're talking about is that's the case. Through settings, we can actually configure the RFI workflow that you would need. Oops, on this tab. So you can see here, we have the default is the creator to manager to reviewer workflow, but we can actually add an additional reviewer if that matches the workflow that you're trying to achieve here. Just know that you can have multiple users listed as reviewers. So when you create an RFI, you have a drop-down list of multiple users that you can assign that to. So it's not one particular person as reviewer one particular person as reviewer two. You will have a full list of anybody that's been invited to the project to be able to be the one who is assigned as a reviewer to that particular RFI, for example. We'll go back out here and go back to the RFIs. So let me just show you what this looks like. So you can see here, here's a window. So what I can do is we can, I can give it a number, which is fully customizable. I can give it a title. Here's the drop down. So I've only got 2 people listed in here as potential reviewers, but here at ball and court, I can select one of either myself or one of my colleagues here as the ball and court. Under co-reviewers, you'll see I have a longer list of other people who can review, so I can add them as additional reviewers. I can add a due date, location. I can add attached documentation as references. So like photos, sheets, whatever the case may be, anything to add more clarity to the RFI where necessary, similar to what we discussed with issues. And then as always, we have the full activity and audit trail like the other tools that we've reviewed to help manage the RFI process that you have here. Submittals are going to be very similar to how RFIs are structured. Let me open this up and start a new submittal here. So let me just create an item. So we can assign, basically assign a spec section. We can give it a title. We can create it as a package or a separate item itself. We can assign types, which are fully customizable as well. These are the default types. Within the settings, we can add additional types if we needed to. And then you can see here, here's that same list of reviewers that I had for RFIs for submittals. With submittals, we can actually customize our responses. So I think by default, oops, discard that. Go into settings to responses. We can, so here you can see some very industry standard kind of approve, revise and submit, rejected. You can customize all these. You can add additional responses under these headings to meet your office needs. We can use submittals for shop drawings, material data, samples, project data, whatever you would typically need submittals for in your current workflows. You can use the submittals tool for those particular tasks. The meetings tool is a new addition within the last few months. With this tool, you can create meetings that are fully visible and accessible in the unified platform. You don't need a separate Excel log, for example, saved on a company's physical server that then has to be distributed. Instead, anyone who has been invited to the meeting or added to a distribution list has visibility to the same information that everyone else does. Let me just click on create meeting here. So we can set a date and time. We can set a location if necessary. For virtual meetings, we can even attach video conference links. I can then go over to the right under invitees to the meeting. And then I can add, so you can see I have organizers, I have add invitees. Once they're invited, they'll receive an email notification letting them know that the meeting has been created. We can start adding a description to the meeting. And here you can see we can start adding topics, for example. So let me just type in test. Oops. As soon as one's populated, then I have options to alter the items below it, or I can add another topic in. So I can start to build out my agenda at this point. Let me go back over to meetings. So once I've added items, oh, sorry, my apologies. Let me go back one step here. So let me type in a test topic here. Let me add in an item. Once I add an item in here, test item number 1, you'll see over here to the right that a drop-down is now created where I can then set the items to open, ongoing, or closed. This is why everyone knows the status of each item as they review it. And then we can also attach, similar to what we had talked about with other tools, we can attach references. So again, photos, documentation, sheets, whatever the case may be. That way there's a direct link from our agenda to those items, so we don't have people chasing around and running around, the Autodesk Construction Cloud platform trying to find that information. We have hyperlinks directly to that information. Let me go back out here. Once the meeting is over, and then you want to turn your agenda into meeting minutes, you can simply, let me just open up one of these older meetings here. Go to this construction meeting here. Let me open up agenda. What I can do here is from this drop down, I can simply click agenda and change it to minutes. And the nice thing about this is as soon as I can lock this, and I can always come back and edit it, but then I can distribute those meeting minutes. After the meeting minutes have been distributed, when you need to, let's say in the following week or the following month, when you need to create a new agenda for the next meeting, I can actually come over here and click on follow up. And this will automatically pull all of the open items over as a starting point from that previous meeting agenda, and anything that was closed will just drop off. So you're not, not reinventing the wheel every time you go to create a meeting agenda. I should also note that there are new tools being developed regularly. One of which is the schedule tool, which just became available yesterday, as a matter of fact. So I have no information populated in here. But what the schedule tool we can do is schedules can be imported from other scheduling applications into our build project and displayed in either a Gantt chart or a calendar view. You can share the schedule with field teams so they can comment on specific activities and link references to each activity if necessary. And then you can also use tie it to other software, like I believe Primavera V6 or Microsoft. You can import those schedules directly into the build product as well. Another tool that's coming soon that's not shown here is what's called progress tracking, where we can track the installation activities as a % complete or a quantity of materials that are installed for a given location. So Autodesk is continually updating and adding new tools into these products for us to align with the workflows as they're getting feedback as people are using these tools and the like. The assets tool allows us to track assets from materials such as concrete, wood, drywall, to components and equipment like air handling units, pumps, chillers, whatever the case may be, all from specification to acceptance and then installation. Like the other tools, clicking on settings takes me to another screen where I can fully customize the tool to meet the needs specific to your office, from custom categories to fields and different status. And as I mentioned with Docs, over here, reports, members, and settings are all universal tools that you'll find in multiple products. The main difference being that, as I hinted at, under reports we can generate here and build. We would have different options than what we would have had in Docs, for example. So if you click here, I have additional reports that I can pull due to the tools that we have available to us and build over and above what we had in Docs. All right, so let me very quickly show you, before I get into the plan grid product, I want to show you the Takeoff product. I want to show you the plan grid mobile app here. So if you just bear with me for 1 second, let me share my tablet. And one more time, Jim, can you let me know? Can you see my screen?
I cannot right now. I think it's still loading.
All right. So
I can see it now.
how's that? Okay. Okay. I just want to show you that what we've been talking about can be easily accessible in both the field and in the office. So this is the PlanGrid mobile app on my iPad. It is an app that can be downloaded for free, and you would sign in with your same Autodesk ID that you do with your other software. Once you're logged into the app, you would have access to all of the projects that you've been invited to. I'm just showing the same demo project that we've been looking at in the browser up until now. So here's the home page, similar to what we saw in Build initially here. So you see some of those same reporting functions that we saw on the home screen of Build itself. And then I can click through all the tools down here at the bottom. You can see, hopefully you see a little blue dot. That's me clicking on it with my finger there. So you can see all the various tools that we've been covering so far. So here's Sheets. And if I were to click into, say, for example, that A101 sheet, let me just pick this one here. Here you can see I have the same markup tools. I can create issues directly from the field. I can zoom in on these documents, so on and so forth. Let me just pop back out of here. I can see forms that we talked about. So here's where you see the green plus signs up here. This is where I can create, if I'm in the field on my tablet, I can just click plus on any one of those, and I'm off and running, starting on adding the information to those checklists or those templates that we have had created. And then, of course, you can see issues, you can see members. If I go to more, you can see here's RFIs. So again, I just wanted to kind of show you that the tools and the workflows that we've been discussing will be easily accessible, and you can create and manage documents and information from either the office or the field, no matter which type of device you're actually using at that point. So let me stop my share, and I will go back into my browser real quick. Sorry for jumping around here so much. Okay, so now let's take a look at our last product of the day, Autodesk Takeoff. As you might recall me mentioning earlier, this product is brand new with the introduction of the ACC, or the Autodesk Construction Cloud. Its main focus is for estimators. Now, I'm not going to walk through the entire workflow due to the time that we have here, but I do want to walk through the product a bit to show you some of the capabilities and workflows for using Takeoff, so that you can certainly at least get a taste here. With Takeoff, we can create takeoffs in 2D, in 3D, or in both. And then you can aggregate those results from the Takeoff interface, export the data into Excel, and from there you can import into whatever estimating application you might be using. I've done some of the legwork already here, so that I can show you how quickly some of this, how this looks very quickly. So what I want to do is jump into a current Takeoff that I have started. So I'm going to go into Packages. Hopefully, sorry for the slow internet connection here a little bit. I'm going to click on one of my Takeoff packages that I've already created. I'm going to use my filter tool to just say, just show me anything that I have takeoffs on, and I'm going to click on my A101 sheet here. And it'll bring up that sheet here eventually. There we go. Okay, let me zoom out here a little bit. Let this populate. So here you can see over on the left, I have created a couple different color-coded takeoffs already, and here you can see the actual takeoffs themselves also color-coded on the sheet that I've brought in as a pack. Basically, I imported sheets into a package that I could then use for creating takeoffs. I can create a new takeoff by clicking this plus sign over here. And what that allows me to do is then I can select what kind of takeoff it will be, whether it's area, linear, by count, or BIM, which basically just means that it's an option to be used in the 3D model. So I'll just select area here, for example. I can then select what color I want it to be, how I want it represented on the plan. Here you can see I can select the classification here. This is based on part of that setup that I skipped over here. I selected the uniformat system just because that's what I'm most familiar with. So I can say, let's just say interiors and oops, let me drill down a little bit further. So this is all, again, this is all based on something that I imported into my Takeoff based on the uniformat system. So let me say floor finishes here. I can select count. I can select the output. So I'm going to select square feet since this is area. And then what I can do is I can just say simply start Takeoff. And oh, sorry, I forgot to enter a name. Let's just call this laundry floor material, for example. Now I can click on start Takeoff. Let me zoom in here a little bit. And then I'll just click the four corners of this laundry room. And there we go. So now you can see now I've created the laundry room for material Takeoff here, and it's given me an area of 136.45 square feet. Once we've created our Takeoffs, I can open an additional window down here to show us the quote unquote the inventory. So let me expand this just a little bit here. This is basically just a list of the detailed Takeoffs that have created thus far. So now what I can do, so here you can see, so here are the list of Takeoffs that I have created. Here under interior finishes, for example, you can see here under floor finishes, I have a game room floor finish, a gym specialty flooring, laundry room floor material, so on and so forth. What you can see is the aggregate of, say, for example, let me grab the tile floor. So what you can see here is an aggregate of the square footage of all of these Takeoffs in green here. Under tile floor, and then as soon as I click on one of these Takeoff details under inventory, I get more information over here under an additional detail panel, which then shows the breakdown of all of the various Takeoffs. Basically, this is by room, so I have Takeoffs for the bathrooms for tile floor here, and then down here as well. So that's what you're seeing is a breakdown of all of those various Takeoff. So you see the square footage of each one of those rooms that I've created here. And then finally, what I can do is I can take that data and hit export here. And this should process pretty quickly. Once I've done that, that can be used in conjunction with whatever cost estimating software that you're using. Let me see if I can open this. There we go. Where you can then create a full estimate. So it gives me an Excel spreadsheet listing all that full Takeoff. Here you go. Here's a detailed list of that Takeoffs that we were just looking at. I can take this information, these counts or these square footages, and then associate that, link it into my cost estimating software, and I'm off and running building my cost estimate at that point. Let me take one step back here. As I mentioned, I can also perform Takeoffs in the 3D model as well. And I'm going to just go back here. So if I go a couple steps back here and select Takeoff one more time, and then I go into my architectural model here, for example, you can see that I have a couple Takeoffs in this model as well here. So if I just click on this, so here you'll see, oops. So here you can see, now, sorry, my apologies, I stand corrected. I have the Takeoffs done in the structural model. I might not have any populated here for my apologies. But in any event, the idea is that I can, if I back out, I have some Takeoffs done in the structural model. Let me switch back out to that one instead and show you the Takeoffs here. Takeoff. Something's missing with my Takeoff, sorry. But that's beside the point. The idea is that I can create additional Takeoffs here. For example, if I wanted to, so let's say I needed a window count, I could create a Takeoff specifically for the window count here in my 3D model. And then in this inventory, it's going to show me both the window count, for example, right here. I think I've already done this. So here you can see I have the exterior windows. I've selected, created some Takeoffs for some of these windows. It is all part and parcel or all built into the same aggregate Takeoff, whether it's my sheets. So here are the floor finishes that I did in sheets, And here are the takeoffs that I did for individual elements in the 3D model itself. They're all aggregated together. So when I export that information, that's why we say you can do 2D or 3D or both and aggregate that information and then export it into your cost estimating software.